Edmund Jr., Senior VP, Executive Editor at Large at Black Enterprise. Welcome to another edition of Your Money, Your Life, our show dedicated to all things financial wellness. This episode of Your Money, Your Life is brought to you by Prudential, a 50-year partner of Earl G. Graves Sr. in his mission of creating sustainable generational wealth in the Black community. Find out why more than 25 million people turn to Prudential for guidance on building a legacy. Learn more at prudential.com/legacy. I have the great guest for this show and a great topic for this show, given that we're kicking off 2021, praying, hoping that it's a better year than 2020. We can't control all aspects of that, but there are some aspects that we can and must control, and that means it requires some planning. And our guest today is Elena Anthony, the founder of Financial Demics, a certified financial educator. And again, she's perfect for this show because we're going to talk about what it means to create a calendar for financial decision making for the year. Welcome to the show, Elena.
Thank you for having me.
So, I want to get our listeners, our audience, familiar with who you are. I've been following you on social media, Instagram in particular, for a minute. But talk to me about who you are and the journey that took you to becoming the founder of Financial Demics and what's driving your passion for this subject matter.
Well, so what took me here was a few years of struggle. So I, very independent girl, I'll always say, and I always have to say that my mother did try to give me some guidance, because a lot of times you hear in the story, like, my parents didn't teach me anything. The problem with me is I'm a why girl. I always say that, like, you have to tell me why. You can't just tell me do this and I just do it, because I'm not. So she wouldn't tell me why. She would just say, like, don't get credit, don't do this, manage your money. And I'm just like, why? But your parents are like, I don't have to tell you why, I don't have to explain to you or whatever. And so made a lot of bad decisions, ended up being a single mother. And I was working, I graduated from college, but I had a lot of student loan debt. And so I had a great job. That was the thing. I had a great job. So, you have good money coming in, you don't really think things are a problem. But what happened is I decided, or I had an opportunity to get my PhD for free. And so when I was like, oh, at first I was like, nah, just to be truthful. I was like, nah, I don't want to do that. But then I'm like, for free? Who gets their PhD for free? I jumped at it and realized really quickly after I started making the financial moves I needed to make it happen, that I really couldn't afford to do it. I had too much debt, because people don't realize, like, even though you move, like, your debt goes with you. And it wasn't even just the student loan debt. I owned a house. I had a really expensive car. I traded in that car to get a cheaper car, but still had a payment. And that wasn't really all that smart. I had credit cards and things like that. And so I realized that I basically missed out on a whole opportunity because I had debt. And I don't like being restricted. Like, that is just who I am as a person. So when I missed out on that opportunity, I was just like, you know what? I really have to sit down and pay off my debt, because I was paying it off, but I wasn't, actively making that plan to say, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And so as I started going through the plan and, like, creating my own plan and realizing that I had so much money, I had like $700 left over every month, and I was just playing, seriously. And this was just for my full-time job. I was teaching part-time, which is why the opportunity became available to me, because I was teaching at a community college part-time, because that's just something that I always know in the back of my head, like, I want to eventually go into academia and just help others, because college doesn't have to be that hard. So after that, when I realized, like, I could pay off this debt, it just made me want to help others do the same. And actually, I haven't finished. I always like to be clear. I haven't finished paying off my student loans. Definitely made decisions that made me feel more comfortable in life. And so I put off paying off all my debt, but I was, until Friday, I was consumer debt free.
Well,
so y'all are hearing it first.
Get on that train and get off. So I understand.
I end up buying my son a car. Long story. Check out my YouTube if you want to hear the story. I'll be talking about it. But we'll have a quick plan to pay that off. But I was consumer debt free, and I was mostly focusing on my student loans. We're going to take a second on that and pay off this car really quickly. But that's what made me want to help others. I had to figure it out on my own, like looking up things online, trying to figure out like the Dave Ramsey plan. And there's nothing wrong with Dave Ramsey. It just wasn't really working for my lifestyle and my comfort level. And so I had to figure out how to make it work. And once I figured out how to make it work, I decided, let me help others and help them make it work for them, not like my own set plan, like what makes you feel comfortable, and let's build something according to that.
There's a couple of important things that I want to underscore that I think is important for the show. One, all the best financial educators I know, whether they came from a journalism background, a financial background, people can come to different paths to get to this space of, I'm going to help people, handle their money better. They all have struggle stories,
Yes.
But the perception is, oh, you must have never had this problem. But no, most of you were inspired by you working these things out yourself and then deciding to try to share what you learned so that other people don't necessarily have to go through what you went through to become the expert that you are. The other thing is the idea that you are really focused on the idea that while there are systems out there, obviously there's different systems, Dave Ramsey is one of them, it's important to really tailor whatever you do to a lifestyle that you can, because if you don't, it's like starting an exercise program and a diet. If it doesn't work, you're not going to stick with it.
Right.
You're going to fall off. So I definitely appreciate both of those things, because it gets into the emotional, psychological, mental aspect of creating a financial plan and financial habits that really fit your lifestyle. Because if it fits your lifestyle, then you can stick with it. And if you stick with it, and of course you have to make some adjustments in the lifestyle too, but it's not, oh, here's a system, adapt to it, and it doesn't work for you.
Yeah, because it just doesn't, like, it doesn't work that well. I'll tell you, so Dave Ramsey does a zero-based budget. I like the idea. I cannot budget for the month. I cannot. And funny enough, so like in the daytime, I always say my daytime job, I'm an accountant. So I'm a numbers person.
Right.
So I have to accommodate like in that period. I'll write everything down for the month, but for me, I like to budget by paycheck. It's just easier for me to see where things are going, and to make sure that I'm not wasting money. And if I do mess up, and this is really was the big thing for me, if I do mess up in the first half of the month, I know I can make up for it. But when I was like budgeting for the whole month, like I wouldn't look at it again till the end of the month. So I'd already messed up the whole month. So that wasn't working for me. So I just was like, you know what? I'm going to budget by paycheck. At that time, I was getting paid twice a month. And so I would just budget each and every paycheck. And that was better for me. I had to learn that over time. And so that's why it's big to kind of figure out what works for you. Because a lot of people, like I have friends, like they get paid once a month. So getting, budgeting once a month is great for them. And then there's people who are paid bi-weekly who budgeting once a month work for them, but it doesn't work for me. And I've met others who, once I broke it down to the smaller level, like, okay, we're looking at this much money, it was just easier for them to keep track of things.
So talk to me about, before we get into the whole idea of a calendar for planning your financial decisions, talk to me about this idea of, I see some of your content really is talking about dealing with managing debt and how important that is to get to the point where you really can plan to meet some of your other financial goals. Why is that important to you to deal with your customers, your clients, as you're educating them about what they can do to achieve their goals?
Because truthfully, like the debt piece is big, but if they have larger goals, sometimes their larger goal can help eliminate that debt. But if they're just focused on just paying off the debt, they don't see how it will benefit them. And sometimes, when you're like in that cycle of paying off debt, you are so caught up in it and you're like bored with it. And so you're losing focus on why you're actually doing it. And so if you connect everything together, like, okay, I want to achieve this goal in 2 years, but I need to pay off this debt first, then you're able to, first of all, have that goal item to work towards, but then also it'll help you see like, oh, if I pay off this debt, then I'll be able to do this. Or if like maybe I'm gonna just maintain this debt, pay a little extra, take a little longer so I can achieve this goal at the same time. And then once I achieve that goal, I'll be able to have more money to pay off this debt. And so I think it all connects. And I always say like money touches everything. Like there is nothing you do in life that is not affected by money. And so you have to see how does all your goals attach to like your debt and your financial goals.
To look at what you just said from the other end of the discussion, going back to your opportunity to pursue a free PhD, but not be able to pursue it because of your financial condition at that time, despite being well employed, despite having strong income. I always say wealth is not really about things and money per se. It's about options. And what happened was that option was denied to you because of your financial situation, despite being more than employed, despite having a nice car and having the option was denied to you. And so,
Right.
so what you're saying about if you look at your debt through the prism of what are the goals and things I want to be able to do, those are the options that really are what real wealth is all about. Wealth is the freedom to pursue the options you want to pursue.
Exactly.
So your story about I had a PhD literally handed to me that I couldn't accept because I couldn't organize my lifestyle around it because of my financial position. It says everything that we want to communicate about what we want to teach our audience about from Your Money, Your Life. It's not really about how much is in your bank account and how big your paycheck is. I mean, all those things are measures of your progress, but they're not the same as, I want to travel to Africa and I can do it because my debt's under control, my savings is under control, and I have a plan for how I can make that happen without putting myself at risk of hurting my lifestyle in general.
Exactly. I always say, are you happy? Like,
Mm.
are you truly happy? Because I've worked the job where it's a great pain, but I hated the job. Like I hated the job.
Yeah.
And so you want to be happy. And so I always say to people, like, especially I always look at it like I have a little brother. We are 10 years apart in age. So for me, like he's always coming to me and it's big for me to be able to help him. And I always say to him, like sometimes he'll have an opportunity, like, oh, I could do this. And I'm like, do you want to do it? Because right now he has a job that he loves. And I'm like, yo, having a job you love is a big deal. And that's something you don't realize in your 20s. You're just like, oh, I want to get paid.
We take it for granted. But
Right.
that job we thought we wanted because of the money and everything else. And then we're like,
Yeah, like I hate this job. I can't, or it's like most of the job you don't like. Because I always say there's pieces to the job you like, but then there's most of the job you don't like, or you don't have that freedom to do what you really want to do. And so with him, he's like in a great position. He likes his job. He has freedom to do other things he likes to do. And I'm just like, yo, just keep doing what you're doing. And he's learning a lot. Like his the job is in real estate, and his real estate knowledge, like I thought I had real estate knowledge, and now I feel like I'm like, oh. So I told him that's something that's going to benefit him greater than anything. Is basically priceless. Right. Because he's learning so much and he actually loves what he's doing.
This whole idea of loving what you're doing and learning so much and happiness. So I love that you said, yes, are you happy? Is this going to make you happy? One of my other guests on this show, Shawnee Curry St. Ville, she's a founder of Person Empowerment. And don't quote me to the letter on the number. Go back and watch the Shawnee Curry St. Ville interview, guys, for the actual number. But she said there was a study done, I think by Harvard, that showed that beyond a certain income level, the additional dollars do not make you any happier. Like there's a number, like you get to, I don't know, 75,000 a year or whatever it is, and you reach a certain level of happiness. And then after that, you hit that income level, the additional dollars don't increase your happiness. Doesn't mean you should want to make more money, but it means you shouldn't sacrifice your happiness to make more money because the more money is not going to be worth it.
I believe that. I truly believe that. I think that's so true. just even working in corporate America for so long, just seeing and speaking to others and hearing what they've said, like there's a certain level where like they're like, oh yeah, I have the boat, I have the this, I have the that, but yeah, I want to do something else. Like this is not it, and they're not enjoying it. So I believe that's true.
So talk to me about this idea of a calendar for making financial decisions. Like you said, I want to make it clear to our listeners or our audience, this is a different thing from just budgeting. Yes, you have a budget that says this much is going to go here, this much is going to go there. And that's important. And it's important that you find a way to do that, whether that's on a weekly basis, a monthly basis, a daily basis, whatever's going to work for you. But you're talking about really, planning for the year so you can really stay on track with your financial decision making, make adjustments along the way, but not kind of making it up as you go along from month to month. But so give me the broad strokes of what you're teaching and why that's important.
So I teach this just because I'm visual and most people I meet are very visual. And so the idea is you write down basically everything you want to do for the year in your calendar. Like, if you want to take a trip in the summer, if you want to pay off a bill by this much, if you want to save a certain amount by the end of the year, back to school, vacations, just everything. You write everything down, all of your goals, and the due date in which you want to achieve them. So you're writing them down on that date. And then what you're doing is you're going through and estimating based off of like what your expenses are and what your income is. When are you getting paid? What is happening during those different months? And that is going to help you see like, hey, I'm going to need more money here. So what do I need to do to get to that point? Because sometimes people, it's more so like you said, just the numbers, like, okay, this is my budget and blah 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 and blah blah blah, but that's not going to help you. Sometimes just looking at it and saying like this weekend, well, truthfully I could tell you, so when I went and looked at January, I have a college student, and so I saw like, okay, he has to go back to school here. He goes to school away from home, far away from home, and he was driving back. And so I said, okay, he's probably going to want us to go. And when I asked him, he was like, yeah, I want y'all to help me drive. So, okay, that means, all right, we're going to need money because we need gas. Right. We're going, because they don't, college students, they don't like paying for gas. I didn't either, but so I was like, we're going to need gas. We're going to need a rental car. Like, okay, do we want to stop somewhere and spend the night? And do we have somebody, especially during these times, it's like, do we have a family member who we want to stay with, or are we going to stay in a hotel? Because it's a little bit harder, before you'll be like, oh, I just stay with a family member. Right. But with everything going on, you want to really think that through. And so we went a little out of the way to stay with my parents just because we felt comfortable, with that. And so planning that out, I already knew like, okay, we got to eat on the way and things like that. We have money coming out here. Right. So at this point, I know, like, so that was back in December, we had discussion. I started putting a little bit more into, I have a fund where we travel with. And I was like, let me put some more money there because we need to pay for this trip. And we had to get a rental car to come back. Because so it was just like all this thing. I'm like, we need to pay for these trips. And that gave me an idea where my money was going to flow for that month, for the rest, for January. And so it's like, okay, at the beginning of January, you're about to spend a whole lot of money. and then even if you look at it, like look around your birthday. So if you're a person who like to do things, okay, what do I want to do? How much do I want to spend? Can I afford to do what I want to do, or do I need to scale it back a little? And I think that's what it helps you do. It helps you see how your money is going to flow out of your account. It also helps you see if money is coming into your account because you're writing down your paydays. You might estimate like, okay, if I expect a tax refund, when am I going to get it? If you have bonuses at your job, you're able to see, okay, I get a bonus here, so maybe I can put this much towards this goal that I have. So it's just easier to decide how to make a plan for your money, but then also decide like, do I need to save more, pay off more, or am I fine just where I'm at?
Okay, hold that thought because I want to dig deeper into the benefits of having that calendar and how a budget and a calendar together really is to me a powerful combination to help people achieve their goals for the year and beyond. This episode of Your Money, Your Life is brought to you by Prudential, a 50-year partner of Earl G. Graves Sr. and his mission of creating sustainable generational wealth in the Black community. During that time, Prudential and Black Enterprise have collaborated to promote the personal and societal benefits of career, entrepreneurship, and money management. Today, as both new and continuing challenges present themselves, Prudential remains committed to helping people build lasting legacies. Visit prudential.com/legacy to learn more. So listen, Elena, here's what I love about this idea of a calendar. And some of it you just touched on. But if you take your budget, again, budgeting is important. Budgeting is good.
Right.
But I have a good friend who's also a numbers person. And, when we were, friends back in the day, she would say, yeah, I'm a numbers person. I could tell you to the penny how deeply in debt we're in. I can't tell you how to get out of it, but I can tell you how bad things are to the penny. And so I always remember her telling me that because her point was the numbers are important. Knowing your income, knowing your expenses is very important because that's a starting point for at least understanding what your current financial condition. But without goals and deadlines, without an awareness of that, you kind of just know how bad things are to the penny, but you don't know how to work your way out of it. And this is why a lot of times with Black enterprise, people struggle financially, not necessarily because of lack of education or lack of intelligence, is because without tying what you have coming in, what you have going out to goals, you can't do things like, oh, I want to take this vacation in September. Maybe I need to pick up a part-time job now, or maybe I need to cut this expense now because I see that coming. So just talk to me some more about the value of being able to anticipate and make adjustments, whether that's cutting expenses, looking for different ways to make additional money, putting off a purchase that seems like you want it now, but if you know it's going to, take away from your ability to meet a future goal, you say, you know what, maybe I don't need that now. Because a lot of times our money does it, we don't know where it goes. Like we it's coming in, it's going out. And then we think we have money for something down the road and we don't have it. We don't understand why. A lot of it is because we're not tying our dreams and goals and objectives to the budget and then saying, okay, that's coming up in October. This is coming up in January. That's going to happen. So talk to me about the power of connecting the budget to these goals so that you can even make adjustments along the way to make sure those goals are met.
Yeah. So what I usually say is, write down your goals first. And it's just not financial, it's all your goals. Because as I said earlier, everything's attached to money. Like every single thing is attached to money. You saw from my story, I was going to school for free and I still couldn't afford it. So
wow, right.
Everything is attached to money in some kind of way. And so what you want to do is write down your goals. Like, what do I want to achieve and when do I want to achieve it by? And then from there, you're looking at what is that financial aspect of that goal? Like, how is it going to affect me if I if I work on achieving this goal? Am I going to have to put out more money either to save to do this particular goal, or am I going to have to spend money so I can enjoy this particular goal? Or even if it's like starting a business or something, but you want to look at like, what do I have to invest? How much will it cost me? Like, what do I need to do? Am I going to have to take a loan? Is there going to be payments that are coming up and things like that to achieve that goal? So you want to look at, okay, what do I want to do? When do I want to do it? And then how can I finance this thing that I want to do? And that's the thing. I think we look at goals and we don't think about like how much money is attached to making this goal happen. And this is where you go back to your budget. And your financial calendar, because your calendar is going to tell you how long you have really and what else is going on and how that money is going to flow during that time frame. But then when you're looking at your budget, you're looking at, okay, I make this much, I have these expenses. It is, can I cut something and make it happen, or do I need to make more money to make this situation happen? And a lot of times I think people are just only looking at the cut something to make it happen. But a lot of times you just need to bring in more money somehow. And like you mentioned, getting the part-time job or getting a side hustle together, or just using some type of skill. Because a lot of times people have skills they don't use and they can make money from. I know I have skills I don't use that I can make money from. And I always feel like other people have the same, because once I talk to people after a while, like I remember I had a client for a year who I had no idea used to run a whole catering business.
Wow.
She never mentioned it. And I was like, talking to her, like, are you sure there's no way you can make extra money? And she's looking for side jobs. And I'm like, you don't have any skills? And she's like, no, not really. But she didn't think anything of it. She thought the fact that she could cook and people were used to buy her food was not important. I'm like, are you serious?
No, you're making a strong point, because I've learned for myself. Like I do entrepreneurial coaching. Like I get paid to do it. Mm-hmm. But that grew out of me for decades, helping entrepreneurs just because, oh, let me help you fix this and help you fix that. And people started coming to me. And like you said, I wasn't thinking anything of it. I work for Black Enterprise. I help entrepreneurs all the time. And finally somebody said, I pay you for this. I was like, So I always tell people, think of the thing that friends and family are always calling you for.
Exactly.
Can you make me this dress? Can you cook me this food? Can you show me? And a lot of times it's not even doing it, it's teaching them how to do it.
Exactly.
You got a whole cottage industry on YouTube where you're just teaching somebody how to change a tire. And, and people are like, oh, I need to know that, and I'm willing to pay for that information. So you're making a really great point. But here's, again, your topic. I'm a goal-oriented person. So like I said, everything you say resonates with me. And so, speaking of the beginning of a new year, I don't make resolutions. Like I stopped doing that. Yeah, what I do is between January 1st and my birthday's in March. So the first 2.5 months of the year, I basically spend that whole time thinking about my goal. What do I want to do this year? And by my birthday, I'm supposed to have a list. And literally what I do after that list is created, because just like we talk about, you got to revisit your budget on a regular basis. And what I like about having a calendar is that you got to revisit your goals on a regular basis.
Yes.
Because sometimes what happens with me, I may start out with, let's say, 8 goals. Inevitably by June, I look at that list and say, you know what, these 3 things that was on the list, I don't really want to do it. I haven't really made any financial decisions. I haven't taken any steps toward achieving it. It was a nice to have, but it wasn't. And so I cut those 3 things off the list so I can zero focus on the 5 things that are remaining that I really know I want to do. Because so again, I love this powerful idea that if you have a budget, you can make adjustments to the budget.
Yep.
But you can also make adjustments to the goal. Like I thought I wanted to go to Cancun, but now I'm not feeling it that much. And why make the financial sacrifice if I'm not feeling it? Going back to your point, is it making you happy?
Right. Exactly. Actually, that is so funny. So I'm gonna tell you about a quick, I agree with you, first of all. So with the goals, they always can change. Like I believe that even with your budget, there's this thing I talk about with a financial checkup. And so every month you go back and you look like, where do I stand financially? How much debt do I have? How much savings? Did I overspend in an area? Where am I at when it comes to these goals? And I attach it to the goals because that is going to help you see, oh, I need to put a little more work here, or I'm good here. I'm like ahead of schedule and maybe I need to work here, or maybe I just don't want to do that goal anymore. But the quick story I was going to tell you. So I mentioned I bought my son a car. Mm-hmm. The car is nicer than me or my husband's car. And which is probably because like we're not pressed to buy new cars. Like we live in New York City, like we live in Queens. And so like there's public transportation here. And even though during like COVID, like more people are driving, like we're just not pressed. Wow. So he ends up getting a newer car and it's nice. Like the features, I'm like, this is too nice. And I didn't realize it's a used car. So, you're not really paying attention. I'm like, does it have this, this, and this? But after driving his car this weekend, yes, and then I drove my car yesterday, I was like, I want a new car.
I need to upgrade.
But then I was like, does this fall in line with your goals? Like, and it's like, no, okay, maybe we'll just upgrade the radio. Maybe we'll just upgrade something. And so I think people sometimes people take out that human aspect of like, just because you are good with your finances don't mean you're not going to want things. And it's not going to mean that you don't have things that, goals that you want to deviate from or change. Like things change all the time. And so you have to realize that you don't, just because you set a goal doesn't mean that you have to achieve that goal. Maybe it just does not line up with what you want any longer. As I mentioned, when I was paying off debt, I got consumer debt free and I was focused on my student loans, and I halted the paying them off. And that was because we moved to New York City. My kid, he was older. I was like, I'm not putting him in public school.
Right.
He was already in a really like a magnet program where we came from. And so he ended up going to private school. I am the queen of, I'm not paying for private school. My kid went into private school. And so that halted my student loan payoff journey. And even though I thought like, oh, I wanted to be that person, be like, oh, I paid off my debt in this many months. Like I was more comfortable with the fact that he was in a private school. That school ended up being amazing. Like the camaraderie, the friendships he developed were priceless. Like they're still friends till this day. Like, staff reaches out and checks in. And so like that was worth every penny of me still paying off my student loans.
Right.
And so I always say like, you don't have to, like, even though you have a plan, the plan can change. And just like the budget, I always say the budget's a working document. It's
Right.
going to change. Like it just is what it is.
Yeah. You know what? I love what you're saying, because there's a lot of guilting around so-called getting your money right.
Yeah.
And I always have this, well, don't be motivated by guilt. Like if what you really want to do is take a vacation to, Curacao this year, and that means you're going to slow down on paying off something else that you owe, it doesn't mean you're being irresponsible with money. It's about going back. Are you happy?
Right.
Is this experience worth you extending your payments on this other thing? Is your life, is your money, and as long as you're above board with what you're doing, be motivated by what makes you happy, not what you feel guilty about. The other thing is this recognition that I have this rule, and this again, it goes back to goals versus budget. Once you have a set of goals that you're working toward, I have this rule. It's either God, yes, or heck no.
Yes.
I feel really strongly about it and I'm going to put money toward it, but none of this, okay. If you're it's a nice to have, but not a need to have. I tell people the reason I have everything I want is because I know to say no to everything I have, that I can have.
Yeah.
And so when you're focused on your goals and your calendar and your dates and your deadlines and your money, then you start saying, yeah, it would be nice if I could do that, but am I really going to sacrifice this thing I really, really want? And that's important because I think once you can get rid of this idea of you're depriving yourself of something, like one of my big things, if you follow me on social media, I'm a natural bodybuilder. That's my sport. I don't get paid to do any of it. It costs me money. I gotta fix, but I get so much out of it if I'm willing to sacrifice other things to be able to do this. And so my point, I don't know if I'm making it as clear as I'd like to, that having these goals and focusing on them on a regular basis helps you to understand what do you really, really want versus what you could have.
Right.
And a lot of the money we blow is on things that are nice to have, but if we didn't have it, we wouldn't miss it.
Right. You don't care about it. You don't care about it. And funny thing is, like, as you're saying that, I'm just thinking back to that car I mentioned. Like, that was my dream car that I had. Once I had it, I was like,
Right.
It was not important. It was so crazy to me. And as I've gotten older, and that's why I'm like, it's not going to matter. And hence the whole like, oh, I want a new car. Now, I do want a new car. The car I want is a very nice car. I like a nice car. I always tell people that. But when I want to get it, when I get it, I want to get it. Like, and so I want to enjoy it. And so that's why I was like, okay, you're not gonna be able to get that car. So what's the point? Like, let's do what you got to do so you could get what you want. And so, like, does that make you happy? So I agree. I like your story about the bodybuilding, because that's something that you enjoy. And I think you should have something that you enjoy in life. I always talk to people and I'm like, do you have a hobby? Do you have something you love? Because I think it's important for us to realize, like, you're not meant to just work.
Right. Work, spend money, and die.
Right.
Work, pay bills.
What do you enjoy? Do that. Like, do that. If it's travel, do that. I know for some people they're struggling right now with that one. But you know, if it's working out, do that. Like, I have a friend who she loves working out, and that's her thing. And so she loves to do that. I have another friend, she loves cooking healthy meals. Like, that's what she loves to do. And I'm like, well, you should do that. Like, you do whatever you love, because life is too short to not do it.
So in the time that we have left, I mean, with every guest on the show, there's no way to cover in 35, 40 minutes all the wealth of information and knowledge that you guys bring to the table. But if people want to, learn more about Financial Demics, learn more about the services and resources you provide, what's the best way for people to follow up and get more from you?
Well, you can check out my website. It's www.financialdemics.com. You can also check out my YouTube channel. I drop videos weekly. And if you have questions, you can send me a question. I'll answer them in a video for you to help you out. That's just really my goal. I really want people to become confident about money. Like, I primarily work with women. Once you're confident about your money, even if it's not good, it's amazing how you become confident just because because you see it written down, like, oh, this is where I am. So now it's like, okay, this is what I need to do. And so I'm always there to help others. So I do offer coaching services, and I do have new products I'm adding to the site to kind of help you advance your financial literacy. And just remember, like I said, money is attached to everything, but do what makes you happy. But you can't have both. I think we live under this guise that you can't have both, but you can. Like, you, as Alfred said, he said he has everything he wants because he focuses on what is important
What
to
I
him.
really want. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're underscoring a point that I try to make regularly on this show. Your happiness almost has nothing to do with how much money, little or more money you have. I mean, beyond a certain range, yeah, if you're literally living in abject poverty and it's affecting your
Right.
health and quality
Right.
of life, yeah. But once you get past your basic needs being met, your happiness is not really tied by how much money you have in the bank and how big your paycheck is. So, and often because of, the kind of society we live in, we're chasing those numbers because we think we're going to. I remember when I got out of college, I was raised in a working poor household in the working class community.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just remember, man, when I make 50,000 a year, I'm going to be set. Then you get to 50,000 and that's not nearly enough. And of course, by that time I moved to New York. Then I was like, man, when I get to, 80,000, I'm going to be balling. You get to 80,000. And then of course, there's the magic. I got a 6-figure income. There's like, oh man, when I get to the 6-figure income. And then, over time, I was like, you know what? I'm glad I'm making more money. And of course, I want to be rewarded for my work and my abilities and the value I bring to the table. But I'm realizing that I could chase this number forever and not be happy. So let me focus on being happy. And if I'm happy, I'm probably going to be more productive. I'm probably going to make more money anyway.
Right.
And if I don't, and we all know these stories of, people who leave corporate America, they left like 7-figure compensation. And they say, no, now I sail boats.
Yes.
I carve, I make carvings, I make furniture, and I'm set. I'm good. And I don't really care how much money I have in the bank,
Exactly.
And that's what I'm trying to get to.
Yeah, that is the life though. That's the goal to achieve. And I think it does take us a while to get there. And for me, like, I just learned that from watching others, like observing others. And because I worked in corporate America, I had access to a lot of C-suite executives, and just hearing what they were saying, they would say things to me and I realized, like, oh, it's really not that deep. Like,
Right.
And that's why I mentioned the fact that they said, like, oh, they have the boat and this and this. But if you listen to what they're saying, they'll eventually tell you, like, I just rather do this one thing. It has nothing to do with their job. They could care less.
Well, the other thing is that the real currency, the most valuable currency we have is time.
Mm-hmm.
And when I work for Black Enterprise. So of course, we talk to all kinds of C-suite executives all the time. And, I can share the wisdom I've gotten people from former American Express chairman Ken Chenault, who talks about, they pay, but guess whose time they and you have people who can't even enjoy the things that they've been able to buy. They can't go on the boat. They can't, because they gotta be. So,
Right.
Nobody just gives you money just to be giving you money. And so there's a balance between how much time do I want to spend to be able to make this X amount of dollars, and for how long do I want to do that?
Yeah.
Especially if my health is being impacted, because that's the other issue.
Right. Oh yes. That's another big one. That's a whole nother conversation.
That's a whole other show right there.
Yeah.
Because you and I have both seen people in corporate America at the higher levels. They got the suit and tie on, and they got the the designer clothes on, but they're breaking down. Their families are breaking down. Because of the price they're paying to do the work that they have to do. So if you love it, then it's not a bad thing. But we know there are so many people in quote unquote high earning professions who are very unhappy, and that unhappy seeps out in other aspects of their life.
Mm-hmm.
Means they're not happy, which if you're not happy, what's the point?
Exactly.
No.
What is the point? You're not enjoying what you're doing anymore.
See, as you can tell, I can talk to you forever.
I know.
I gotta have you back on this show again. I'm so happy that we're finally connected. Listen, Elena, thank you so much for being a guest on Your Money, Your Life.
Thanks for having me.
You're listening to the latest edition of Your Money, Your Life. This episode of Your Money, Your Life is brought to you by Prudential, a 50-year partner of Earl G. Graves Sr. and his mission of creating sustainable generational wealth in the Black community. Find out why more than 25 million people turn to Prudential for guidance on building a legacy. And you can learn more at prudential.com/legacy. Thanks for joining us for Your Money, Your Life. I'm Alfred Edmond Jr. Take care.